Is technology merely a tool, or can it profoundly reshape industries and ethical boundaries? Well, today here on Tech Talks Daily, I'm going to be joined by Dr. Mfon Akpan, and he's a renowned figure from Methodist University, and he has an infectious enthusiasm for all things technology, especially how artificial intelligence is reshaping the field of accounting. But with his extensive experience in academia and service on the audit committee in North Carolina, for me, he brings a unique perspective on the intersection of AI, ethics, accounting, education, and so much more. Honestly, he's the kind of guy I could listen to for hours, and so much so I had to stop myself going down a rabbit hole and an additional side mission as we were talking today, so I will be getting him back on later in the year. But no more spoilers from me. Delivering daily content to 140,000 of you wonderful monthly listeners across the globe is no small feat. I don't want to take all the credit here because it wouldn't be possible without the backing of our dedicated sponsors and partners. And I also want to shine a light on the fact that legacy managed file transfer tools are looking dated. They often lack the security that today's remote workforce demands. And companies that continue relying on that outdated tech, they're in danger of putting their sensitive data at risk. Attention IT professionals, are you tired of juggling these multiple servers for secure file sharing? Integrated shared folders and email plus a comprehensive REST API. Kiteworks simplifies your workflow. For administrators, you can experience unmatched functionality and integration that traditional MFT servers just can't touch. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks by going to kiteworks.com to get started. That's kiteworks.com. And remember, Kiteworks is also FedRAMP moderate authorized. Thank you for your patience today. This is the moment you've been waiting for. It's time to welcome my guest onto the show. Buckle up and hold on tight, because no matter where you are in the world right now, it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to North Carolina, where my guest is waiting to talk with us. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, first, Neil, I'm excited to be here. My name's Dr. Mfon Akpan. I'm assistant professor of accounting at Methodist University in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I teach graduate and undergraduate level courses in accounting. I am a AI and metaverse enthusiast. So I love technology. I think a better way of saying that is I really love technology.
And I love that. It's one of the reasons I invited you on here. And what I try and do every single day on this podcast is talk about something that people are talking about in businesses and maybe demystify some of the complex technologies and maybe ease a few concerns. And right now, everyone's talking about AI. But the reason I invited you on today was to talk about AI ethics, which is another huge talking point right now. So to begin with and set the scene for our conversation today, can you just walk me through the key principles behind the accounting framework for AI ethics, and also how that aligns with the AI Code of Professional Conduct as well? There's a lot going on there, but just for anyone that's hearing about this subject for the first time, could you just set the scene for me?
I think that is a huge area that is still being worked on as far as AI ethics. And tying that into the Professional Code of Conduct, so the AICPA Code of Conduct, there's still discussion on that. There's still challenges with that. And I think as the technology continues to develop, there'll be even more and more challenges that we'll see as far as how AI is used, privacy issues, particularly data. I think that's a big issue. One area that I'm interested in is devices. So we've got so many of these AI-powered devices. I've had conversations myself with a colleague, which this may be interesting. So I've got, if you're familiar with the Ray-Ban, the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, the AI glasses, I've got a pair of those. So I had a conversation with my colleague. So I'm like, well, how would you, if I was working at a company and I had a pair of these glasses, number one, I could come into the office I could tap on my glasses and take a picture of stuff on my screen. I could go with a client, take pictures of the client. I can record parts of the conversation. I can take pictures of documents. So there's a lot of things that I could do with these glasses and no one would know. Yeah. So the question was, well, what policy would this fall under? And my colleague was like, I believe it would fall under a smartphone policy, which I thought was interesting. So the way we have a smartphone about how you use your data, how you're not supposed to, but again, how would you know, if I have my phone, that that's a phone.
Yeah.
But if I have these glasses on, unless I tell you, you really wouldn't know. So I think that you could say that's a challenge. It's not a challenge. You could say, well, okay, we can use smartphone policy, but does that really cover something like that with these devices? And then when I thought about the rabbit pen and the human, when you see these different pens and these other devices, Claude is another one where you can put it on your phone and it records everything. So, I start to think about how are we going to mitigate those challenges, and especially from what is right, what is wrong? Is it okay for me to record these things with my Claude device, or take pictures of documents with my Meta AI glasses? And is that considered a smartphone? Or if I'm in trouble because I'm using it, can I say, well, it's not a phone. These are my glasses. So I think that there's a lot of challenges, and I think these challenges with the AI, and this is all stemming from AI, are coming at us pretty quickly. And the fact that we're having these conversations, I think there is something there. It's not cut and dry.
And I'm glad you raised that. There'll be a few people listening probably don't know about the Ray-Ban glasses. Obviously, we know about the Vision Pro, that big, bulky headset, and there's so many other virtual reality headsets, mixed reality headsets that are big and bulky. But these Ray-Bans look just like a pair of glasses. Are they like the Google Glass? Is a little red light come on when you're recording something? Or if I was sat next to you in a bar or a restaurant, would I know that you were recording with these glasses?
These are my glasses. I don't know if they'll be able to see, but they have a little on the side of them. They have a little camera on the side, but pretty much you wouldn't be able to know.
And what's been your experience with those, just out of interest?
They've been great. I mean, they work better than expected. You're able to talk to the AI, so you can ask it questions. What is if you see something, what is this? So it has vision, so it can read things. So I mean, it's a very interesting technology, and it does that. So if you take a picture, it goes to your phone.
Wow.
So then you have it on your phone, and then you can post it to social media or save it in your phone, and you have those documents. So, or you have those images.
Wow, that's incredible. I think we could almost dedicate an entire episode to that, because I know you are passionate about that area. So it sounds like we're going to need to get you back on there. But if we come back to the world of accounting for a moment, what would you say are the most significant ethical considerations when integrating AI technologies into the accounting sector? Because again, there's a lot of businesses now, they're rushing in, they're getting the new AI stuff, but what kind of things should they be thinking about, especially from the ethics standpoint?
One thing, we hear privacy. So I think that's one big thing. Also, outside use. So there's a statistic where you have, I think, 75% of knowledge workers are using AI, but they're using it not at work. So I think that could be a concern, where you may not either you have the tools at the office, or you don't have it at the office, but then you have employees who are using it because they want to be more productive. They want to get more done. So they're using this on their own computers, which may not have the same privacy protocols if you have an enterprise license for some of these models. So it ties into privacy, people using it, I guess, off the books. I don't know if that's a way to say it. I think that could be a big concern as well, because you don't know how they're using it, and it's not managed. They're using it outside of the workplace. So you can't really manage how they're using it or understand how they're integrating it into their work processes.
So if we've got an accountant listening to our conversation today, anywhere in the world, maybe they're sat on the fence, maybe one side of them is thinking, oh, it's all overblown, it's overhyped, or it's set for the future, or I'm too scared, I want nothing to do with that for ethical reasons. Can you just set the scene on how AI is transforming the account profession in terms of things like productivity and accuracy with some real-world use cases? And also on the flip side, just some of those potential risks that need to be managed to ensure ethical AI adoption. I understand there's a lot going on in there as well, but anything you can share around that?
There's a big question. It was a good question. The first part, when you said it's overblown,
yeah,
I would argue it's underblown. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
And why would I say that? So from my perspective, and I get it. So we tend to kind of focus on the negative side. So we focus on hallucinations, meaning the AI lies, in other words, it hallucinates. So it's not very reliable. You ask it 9 questions, it'll get those 9 questions right, but that 10th one, it'll get wrong. So it's not like a calculator. You sit with your calculator, you can type in 2 + 2 = 4 10 times, and you'll get the same answer. So we don't have that reliability. Yes, issues with privacy. So that's there. But here's the flip side. If you think about the capabilities, so whenever I look at these assessments, so if you go right now to Anthropic's website and you look at the performance for Claude 3.5 Sonnet, you look at that, it'll say for the undergraduate assessment, the benchmark, it scores 86%. So he gets 86% of these questions right. I think ChatGPT is about 86% as well. Then the master's level assessment is around 50% for Claude, and I think 30% for ChatGPT. Why is that interesting? And why is that underblown? Well, if you look at education attainment data in the U.S., about 40% of Americans have a bachelor's degree. So that's not even 50%. You look at graduate degree, it's somewhere 13 to 15%, right? And then you think about a doctorate, it's somewhere around 3-5% there.
Yeah.
So when you hear them talk about these models, we want to get it to be better, to work at a PhD level. I'm saying to myself, well, it's already working at an undergraduate level, which is at a level higher than most Americans.
Yeah.
So when they talk, you see what I'm saying? So when you talk about AGI, you talk about how powerful it is. The other thing is you think about the literacy rate. Literacy rate in the U.S., about 54, I think it's 54% of Americans read at a 6th grade level. You've got a tool that scores 86% at an undergraduate level. So I think when they talk about AGI being smarter than the average human, I think it's already smarter than the average person. In my opinion, it may be controversial, but if you kind of compare where are normal people, because many, you see them talking, I hear Mira Marathi, PhD, 3%, at least in the U.S., are PhDs. And then you've got to peel back the onion on that too. My doctorate's in accounting. I couldn't, if I went to a large language model and asked it a PhD question in physics, I wouldn't know if it's right or wrong or what it is. I'd have no idea. So I think when you talk about it being overhyped, I don't think it's being over. I think it's actually the opposite. They're not really talking about how powerful and capable the models are that we have right now. Now, to the flip side about the issues, when we talk about use and ethics in workflow, that's a challenge because so there's all these questions in accounting. If I'm working on something and do I tell my client I'm using AI to do this or do I tell them that I'm using it? That's an ethical issue.
Yeah.
They're paying me to do it, but hey, I'm using AI to do it. Do I tell them that, hey, about 80% of this was done by AI and 20% was done by, so those questions can come up. And I think that can be a concern as well as the privacy issue as well.
100% with you. And I also agree with you when you said we do focus on the negative too much sometimes. And one of the reasons I invited you on today was a paper that you co-authored also discusses the transformative potential and challenges of AI in accounting education. But can you tell me a little bit more about how AI can enhance learning experiences and prepare students for the future workforce? Because this isn't something we should be celebrating, right?
Yeah, we should, because they're using it. Everybody, when you think about the large, so you think about the big four firms, they're heavily invest billions of dollars into AI, partnering, implementing, adding it to workflows because they want to increase productivity. They want to get things done faster. And over again, I hear from my colleagues at these firms, generate and review. So, and what that means is that you're looking for ways to add it to the workflow. Okay, if there's some sort of process that would take me 6 hours to do, now, if I use AI to generate it in maybe it may take a 10 seconds to generate whatever it is I need. And then I spend 2 hours reviewing, I've saved about 4 hours, right? So that is the main. There's other use case, but that's the main one. Generate and review, increasing that productivity and getting things done a lot faster than you would before. So then you can move on to other work. You've got more capacity. And as the models get better, and what I mean better as far as reliability. So when you think about it from that generate and review paradigm, eventually the models are going to get better and better and better. The review time is going to get shorter and shorter and shorter because you're going to become more precise. So it'll only enhance your capability. Then by adding it to workflows, you start to understand, because these models for the most part are general. So you can add it here. You can try to figure out how I can use it here. Maybe I can save 20 minutes here in this process. So you look for different ways to use it and implement it, and that productivity adds up. In the classroom, having students being exposed to it and using it, it helps, number one, them to understand how it works, the good side, the bad side to it, but also how it can be implemented and put into workflows, because this is new. It's a new technology, but it develops their skills with the technology. So they're not they're not just flying blind or starting at zero with it.
And something else we need to highlight, that this stuff is here right now. It's not something for the future. It's here right now, as you mentioned a few moments ago, and how smart it is right now. So how important is it for educators, policymakers and industry leaders to collaborate right now as well in preparing students for the evolving technology landscape? And what steps can they take now to foster this collaboration? Anything that you're seeing here?
Yeah, to foster implementing the technology, making it very accessible, because it's very important. That's a good point. It is here right now. People are using it, and to put yourself in and so the other thing is, so I'm a professor, I've got college students. I've got to prepare them. If I got a freshman, I've got to prepare them for the world 4 years from now.
Yeah.
And it's here now, but it's going to be here even more. And we're going to be using it at a different pace. So I've got to try to expose them to as much as possible, give them as much exposure and skills as possible now so that they can have a leg up when they get out into the workforce. When I always use this analogy, say you're an employer, you got four candidates, right? You got four candidates. Let's say they're all mathematicians, same education, everything is the same, except for their tools that they use to do their work, their mathematics, their calculations. You got one mathematician. He only uses a pencil and paper to do his calculations. So, he'll be there, he'll get the job done, but it might take him 2 days to get it done. Now you've got the other mathematician. He comes in, he's got the calculator. He does all his calculations on his calculator. He can get the work done in 1 day. Now you've got another guy comes in, he brings in his laptop computer. He's got the internet, his spreadsheets. He's got everything there. He can get everything done in about 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Now you've got your other one. He's got a computer and he's got AI. And he can get all of his work done in 1 hour. Now, if you're an employer, businessman, and you want that mathematician, which one would you want to hire? Which one would you want the guy with the pencil and paper? No, you want the guy with the AI. And that's where we are right now. So when we're talking about education, we got to think about it this way. Employers, hey, they want you to execute. They want the output. They're going to say, well, that's great. He can do all of this on pencil and paper, but it takes him 10 hours to do it. I want the guy who can get it done in 15 minutes, right? So that's where we are right now, and that's only going to increase. So, when I use that analogy, it kind of you think about, well, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I understand that. Why this is important and why it's important for students to learn about it. And you hear me say, get exposed to it. I say get exposed to because it's changing so fast. So by the time I had an activity in my class last fall using Claude 2. Now we've got Claude 3.5. By the time we start classes again, I don't know what we'll have, right? So you got to try to expose them to as much as possible so they're familiar with it, the general basis, not necessarily diving too deep because it's going to keep changing. The goalpost is going to keep moving.
You raise such a great point there, because when I scroll down my newsfeed, I do see a lot of education institutions that are saying, hey, we need to get everyone's smartphone, put them in a pouch, lock them away. It's class time. And AI, if we catch you using AI, we're going to punish you for that as well. And there's almost kind of two worlds going on. I understand the reasons for it and the distractions, etc., and learning for yourself. But when these students leave the education, they're entering a world where everyone's got all of these tools and relying on them. So is it better to give them access and teach them how to use it responsibly? It's such a big topic. Where do you stand on that?
It's better to give them access and have them use it responsibly, because they're going to be in the workplace. They're not going to be sitting in the classroom, and we're preparing them for work. So I think definitely getting them exposed to as many tools as possible only helps them when they leave. Because employers, again, they're going to be looking for the technology skills. They're going to be looking for these specific skills when they get out there, and they want them to be able to use them, understand them, and have some level of proficiency. It doesn't have to be perfect, but to have some sort of proficiency with the tools. So definitely, particularly in accounting, it's here. And when you think about the big four firms, okay, they're heavily invested. All of this trickles down. So eventually you've got other firms. So you got your regional, your smaller firms. They're going to be invested in it and using it as well.
Yeah, and even when you leave school, it's not a case of then getting a job and then sticking in that job for 40 years and getting a wristwatch at the end of it. We're all on this path of continuous learning now. So as AI continues to evolve, where do you see lifelong learning, or what role do you see lifelong playing in helping accounting professionals, and indeed anyone, staying current with these emerging technologies and ethical standards? And any tips on how they can do that? Because there's that much information coming at us, and the speed of change is going at breakneck speed. But at the same time, there's almost a realization that it's not going to move this slow again.
It won't. So there's a theory, they call it the 10-10 rule. And it's in one of my favorite books. It's called Where Good Ideas Come From by Stephen Johnson. And they talk about this 10-10 rule. So, and this is before, it would take 10 years to develop a technology and then 10 years for it to be widely adopted. So let's say the color TV.
Yeah.
Took 10 years to develop it and then 10 years for it to be widely adopted. You think about DVDs and CDs and et cetera. So you think about, if you put that 10 and 10, that's 20 years as a generation. So it's almost, if you say 20 years a generation, that doesn't exist anymore. And it gets to the point where you have to really be, to some point, technology agnostic or platform agnostic, meaning not just marrying yourself. It's important to learn one platform, but learn what you need on that platform that you can use on another platform. What do I mean by that? Well, if you think about Gemini, you think about Claude, you think about ChatGPT, you think about all of these platforms, what do they have in common? You input with prompting. Okay, I need to learn prompting, right? So you get good at prompting, at the different types of prompting. There's 0-shot, few-shot prompting, chain of thought, tree of thought, NOVA. So you start learning prompting, because now you can use those prompts on any of those platforms, right? So you have to start thinking about, well, okay, I can stick with one. I like one, but what skills can I learn that I can carry across the platforms? What skills can I get good at, even if these things keep changing, which they do? Just like I gave the example. Last fall, we were using Claude 2.0. Now there's 3.5 Sonnet, right? So, but the through line with that is prompting. So you still have that prompting piece. So getting good at the prompting and understanding how to build skills across these various platforms. I think that's very important.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And we've talked about the private sector and consumers. They're racing ahead with this stuff and getting to grips with it. But we also mentioned a little bit about the public sector and how they could be slow to catch up or see the value in it. We talked about education, but in the world of public sector accounting, how do you see AI impacting that area? And are there any ethical considerations or anything that's relevant to them that might be listening right now? And it might feel just overwhelming, but as we've said multiple times, it's here right now. We need to deal with it.
I think one issue is that when you look at the data, as far as who's using it, it can be very confusing.
Yeah.
And to tell you, I don't think we really know how many people are using it, who's using it, and exactly how they're using it. Why is that? Because to that point, you have many people using it at home, and they may not use it at work, and they may not let their colleagues or their employer know that, hey, I'm using AI to get a lot of my work done. So, and because many of these tools, you can use them at a certain capacity for free. So it's not paid subscription. So I think as far as people using the tools, there are more, in my opinion, so this is just my opinion, I think there's more people using them than we know. However, they're not using them directly at the workplace. And then at the workplace, if your company has not embraced or invested in AI, it may be challenging for them to figure out how to implement it how to manage it, how to tackle these ethical is like you were mentioning, how to tackle these ethical issues around it. So they may push away from it. So I think that we're in this gray area right now where you've got people using it, they're not using it, there's benefit, there's not benefit. Some workplaces are using it, some are not. You imagine if you have your own shop, your own practice. Do I tell my clients I'm using it? What'll happen if my clients know? Will they want? Do I have to? Will I lose clients? Do I charge them less money? Do I let them know these things? Even though offshoring, so you think about a tax practice, many people offshore their preparation, right? They hire people overseas to do a lot of their work and then they review it. Is that the same thing? Or do people see that in the same thing? So there's all these different gray areas that we have with this that has to be sorted out.
And another area I'd love to ask you about is around accessibility, because I think in recent years we've seen a lot of authoritative content that's slowly but surely been locked away behind paywalls, and that could be anything from science papers to, I don't know, Time magazine or a newspaper or something. It's all locked behind paywalls, so only certain people can access that information, which means everyone goes then to information that's not verified. Maybe that's got something to do with the misinformation we see so much of. I'm not sure, but if we look to the future, if we've got to have members of society that don't have access to $20 a month for ChatGPT or Claude, etc., could certain members of society get left behind because we're this information that almost helps them be limitless and improves their life, they're locked out from that world? Is there a digital divide? Do you see anything around that?
Yeah, we have it now because you just mentioned it. There's a paywall.
Yeah.
And it's throttled. So, I pay for the enterprise. I have the enterprise ChatGPT 4.0. So I can use it as much as I can sit on there most of the day and use it. Someone that doesn't, they're not able to do that.
Yeah.
If I go to Claude 3.5, I get in there and I'm doing work in there. Eventually, he's going to tell me you've used up all your time. You got to come back in 4 hours or 5 hours to. So it's there. And I think as this technology continues to scale and improve, I do believe we're going to see more and more of a divide. There is a divide. We're going to see a greater divide because of the network effect. You're going to have more, eventually, you're going to have more and more people using these tools. It's not as if, in 2023 to 2024, people stop using, are signing up for these tools. More and more people are. And as that increases, that divide is going to increase because you'll have more people using it for free. And then you'll have those people who are behind that paywall and have more access, which gives them access to more productivity, more intelligence. So now there's a digital divide around intelligence. And I think that goes back to what I was mentioning before. When you look at these education attainment levels, you look at the performance levels, now you're going to have individuals who are going to have access to a lot of capable information intelligence and others who don't.